Here's the lie that gets smart, capable business entrepreneurs and business owners like you into trouble, that growth means you're doing something right. In reality, growth can be the very thing that's going to expose what you haven't put in place yet, expose what you haven't done, what you haven't built. And if you don't realize that and name that early, it's absolutely going to cost you. So stick around and hear what I have to say.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Schin.
Hey, welcome back to another podcast, another episode of Franchise Pitfalls and Profits podcast. And I'm your host, Don Schin. You know, for over 25 years, I have worked with business owners and entrepreneurs, franchisors, franchisees, leadership teams. I've helped them navigate growth, sometimes wisely, sometimes it's very painful. This podcast, particularly in 2026, it's never been about hype. It's never been about shortcuts. But in 2026, what it's really going to be about is asking better questions, building responsibility, and choosing growth paths that actually hold up for you and your company over time. Now, because of the title here, you might be blowing this off. And let me tell you why I feel this episode is so important, why it really matters. And let me say that this might sound uncomfortable. It might feel uncomfortable. And I really hope that after I share this, that you don't hit end and go on to something else. So here it is. Most growth problems don't start with bad decisions. They start with unexamined assumptions. Again, I challenge you as a business owner and entrepreneur who wants to grow. I challenge you. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel like it's a terrible thing or you've done bad things. But I also want you to hang in here for these conversations and be willing to be challenged, because there's one assumption, what I'm calling the big lie in reality, that I see over and over. It doesn't matter what the industry is. It doesn't matter the size of the business. Honestly, it doesn't even matter where you line up as far as your leadership skills or experience levels. It sounds harmless. Often, candidly, we're normally celebrating what I'm going to share with you. It's almost never challenged. And here it goes. Are you ready? The lie is that if we're growing, we must be doing something right. Revenue's up. Seems like we've got some more customers. We've just opened into a new market. I've brought on extra overhead and costs. We've got a new office. Certainly our activity levels are up, and we feel like we've got more momentum. There's certainly clearly more activity and motion going on. Everyone on your team, your peers, the marketplace is going to reinforce this same message. Congratulations, it's working. But do you know the truth? Do you want to know the truth? And something that most business owners learn too late. Most business owners learn after it's cost them so much. Here it is. Growth doesn't validate your foundation. It tests it. Again, growth doesn't validate the foundations of your business. It's going to really test it. And passing that test requires something very different than pure activity and motion and momentum. So that's what we really want to talk about today. That's what I want to talk about today, to genuinely identify this lie, identify these unchallenged assumptions, and really look at your business in a much, much deeper way. Unfortunately, the marketplace rewards this activity and this motion and this momentum and this start to growth. Banks even reward it. Investors may come in and reward it. Again, your industry peers, your entrepreneurial peers are going to praise the growth that you've got going on. But and again, even internally, as I said, even as a leadership team or the employees that you have in place, they're probably celebrating this. But growth feels like some relief. Hey, we've got more cash flow at the end of the day. It feels like a validation, a confirmation. It feels like real proof that we're doing the right things. But here's what growth is actually going to do. It's going to magnify whatever already exists. So if your systems are weak, growth is going to expose that. If your leadership structure is thin, or you don't have the right talent, the right people on the bus, so to speak, growth is going to strain that. If your roles are not clear, a lot of business owners in smaller companies focus a lot of things on themselves. Then growth's going to cost conflict and strain and stress and pressure. If your communication isn't strong, whatever clarity or confusion exists today on your smaller scale, it's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get amplified as your business grows. Again, if you've centralized your decision making on you as the owner, then growth is going to overwhelm you as a founder or as an owner of your business. And yet, instead of slowing down to ask what's going on and to analyze and look at what's going on, instead of asking what is growth really revealing, most owners double down. They just push harder. They push themselves harder. Last time we talked, they just think putting in more hours, spending more time at the business, spending more time, put my shoulder really into the wheel there, more of the grind. They just feel this is going to fix things. You press your team more, not just challenge them in good ways, but you just push them. Because the lie is telling you, hey, if we stop now to really ask this deep question about what this growth is revealing, you feel like you're going to lose something. You're going to lose momentum. People get scared when they start to not slam on the brakes, but maybe pump the brakes a little bit to slow down. People get scared. We've never been here before. We want to be here. Sometimes they think, oh, if we slow down, it's just showing that we're failing. Just gotta keep pushing. The summation of all of this is that we just have always kind of been taught, or our natural feelings is that if we're growing, it must be right. And that's how good businesses that have been very well run, they've handled and been profitable at the way they've been doing things. This is when these types of businesses, they drift into these fragile areas or almost danger zones. Here's a distinction that I want to make, and that matters. Motion is not maturity. You can be busy. You can be expanding. You can even be throwing people at things, hiring. You could be selling more, your sales teams, beating up your sales teams to bring in more sales. You can be opening new markets or new locations, and you can still be structurally, architecturally unprepared for the next phase. In fact, many owners confuse motion for this maturity in their structures, their systems, and the architecture of their business. They assume, we're handling it okay. They assume we'll figure this out. they'll assume, hey, this growth is awesome. We'll fix those things later. And they incorrectly assume, hey, when we really hit the next level, well, that's when we'll build the systems once we're bigger. But growth doesn't wait for your readiness. It's going to demand these things of you up front as you're getting into the growth. And when this, what I call maturity in your structure and your architecture and your systems lags behind your momentum, a few things happen very predictably. We don't think of them this way, but I can tell you business after business after business that has not prepared well sees these things happen. The founder really becomes a bottleneck. Sometimes they've been the bottleneck, haven't admitted, or they've been able to get through it, and the team has kind of figured workarounds. But as you're growing, the founder will really become the bottleneck. Your teams are not going to feel comfortable in amplified areas where they've kind of muddled through it. Decisions are just going to get slowed down, or even emotional. There'll be conflicts between your key personnel, your leadership teams, particularly as they are spread thin, and then you push them harder, particularly if they don't have really the right experience and skill sets for the next phase of your business. Again, a lot of things then start to slow down. Quality, depending on what you're doing, quality starts to get very inconsistent. Your culture, the things you've been proud of, why you've been in business, and how the company has done so well to get to the level that you're at today. This growth suddenly, that culture stuff goes out the door. Your culture really starts to drift. And then another and final thing I wanted to talk about that is very predictable when we're not prepared or set up properly. Pressure will quietly build behind the scenes. The things you as the owner or the founder may never actually even see. And certainly from the outside, everything looks great. But everybody in the company, month after month, are just feeling a weight on them. They're feeling heavier. It's almost like it's in the air, a thickness that this growth is, even though it looks fine on the outside, this growth is just creating this heaviness in the company. And that tension is not, and that heaviness is not just growing pains. That's what you're going to think it is. But that's the cost of believing the lie, is just putting it off as growing pains of your business. So let me give you some early warning signs. Maybe this is you, but maybe it's not. And I'll be the first ones to admit it. I had a great call yesterday with a franchisor, and she's got a lot of things really lined up. She paused for a whole year to put some things in place, and I applauded her for doing that. So let me give you some of the early warning signs that most business owners miss. And if you hear yourself in any of these, if any of this sounds familiar, again, it doesn't mean that you're a bad business owner. It doesn't mean that you can't do this. You and your team can't do this in the long run. In fact, I think what it usually means is you're a capable business owner and entrepreneur who has moved quickly because demand was there, but there's other things now that you have to take into consideration. You're not missing this because you're incompetent or you're missing something or you're careless, but growth itself just brings things on that are harder, and they're hard to see sometimes because again you're getting sucked into the business and the growth. And here's what makes this especially tricky. The warning signs don't feel that dramatic at first. They often sound like, hey, I'm just a little tired these days. Hey, they feel like, if we just had one more person you wouldn't say throw at this, but if we just had one more person over there doing XYZ, then we'd be in pretty good shape. Um, Maybe I should just try to clone myself. Let me just find and try to hire somebody that's just like me, the founder, the owner. Maybe they sound more like, hey, my leadership just needs my leadership, key personnel team. They just need to put their shoulder into this more, like I'm doing. I'm the founder. I'm the owner. Why doesn't everybody just do this same stuff? And if they did that, everything will sort out. Everything will be fine. And then sometimes this simply looks like, well, once we get bigger, once we get to that fullness of the next phase, everything's just going to stabilize. Everything's going to balance out. But those aren't workload problems. Again, what you're seeing and feeling are truly structural. They're architecture problems. They are signals that growth has clearly outpaced the fantastic operation and systems that you had operating, or the people that could, plug their finger into the dikes, into the holes in the dikes once in a while, or paper over something, paint over something, and get through. And that all worked pretty well, but it's not going to work as you're growing and trying to get to another level of success. The uncomfortable truth here is that the earlier you address these gaps, the easier and honestly, the cheaper, the less it's going to cost you once you finally fix them. The longer you wait, the more growth locks in your challenges. It's uncomfortable because you're probably denying it right now. You're probably telling me, oh, no, all these things I've just shared, you're saying these things to yourself. And as a founder, owner, you're not, sometimes it's not easy. Like I said, this was going to be an uncomfortable conversation. It's not what has always felt to be the norm. And this is where I see owners unintentionally kind of trap themselves. They grow fast enough to make change risky, but their structure and architecture is not mature enough to make the growth stable. So that's the danger zone. And most don't realize it, honestly, until something starts to break. Suddenly you can no longer paper over it, no longer have someone kind of running around and cleaning up the problems. It's just broken. And wow, that is the most painful and the most costly thing that you can allow to happen. So let's talk about the resistance and why slowing down, why slowing down feels like failure. I want to be real here. Because if you're listening to this and you're starting to think through this, okay, but I just don't think slowing down is realistic. I get it. Like I said, you feel like you can't lose this momentum, or you'll never get this momentum back. It's going to feel all of a sudden, then it's going to feel like you're losing ground now. It's almost going to feel like, wow, we just, this growth has happened and we're thankful for it, but I'm going to lose my edge. I'm going to lose this advantage that we have now. Sometimes, it feels like just, wow, I'm weak if I slow down. But responsible growth is what I want you to think about. Responsible growth is not going to slow your momentum. It's just about taking the appropriate amount of time, redirecting some of your efforts and your momentum, so that again you are structurally set up for the next phase, the next level of your growth. The strongest leaders I know, they didn't grow fast. They grew cleanly, if you will. They built capacity before there was too much pressure on their systems. They stayed at a very minimum. They stayed acutely aware of this balance between growth and structure and systems and their architecture to handle it. They don't dismiss it and just trying to be so excited about more sales and a new market and a new office and some extra hires. They didn't just get all caught up in that fun of it. They were acutely aware that they had to ultimately be preparing for architecture changes or structure or systems changes before the growth went too far. They built leadership before things got too complex. They looked at their key personnel and their leadership teams to be sure they had the right experiences and experience base and skill sets for the next level. That book that used to talk about what got you here won't get you there. They've got that mindset of recognizing that there may have to make some additions or some changes. They've built, the smart business owners, entrepreneurs, founders who slow down. They begin to build systems before this growth and this scaling truly demands them. Or again, while they're on the threshold of really, really big growth, they're building this structure that's needed for it. From the outside, their growth may have looked slower, but because once the foundation caught up with their growth, the growth curve actually steepened, I guess is the right word. And the business never broke. You never had areas of the business that needed totally overhauled. They again, awareness of what's going to happen, awareness of the structural changes that are going to needed, going just slow enough to manage that and build that will allow you to then have really, really tremendous growth at much steeper or faster paces. So let me leave you with one big question, and that is simply to name what's really going on. The question you should be asking is not, is your business growing? That's the general thing a lot of people will ask you about or you'll talk about. But the real question should be, is your business built to carry growth that it's already starting to see? You're on the threshold of a whole nother level. So the question the astute founders and entrepreneurs, business owners, franchisors are asking is, are we built to carry this? That's the question that's going to change everything for you. It's a shift that will focus and shift from speed to strength, from outcomes solely looking at, my revenues up, to process. What processes, systems, structure, architecture needs to be in place in order to get the outcomes that we're pointing to and hoping for. This is huge. The right outcomes will come if you focus on your structure, your company's architecture, and your processes. You'll go from pressure really to responsibility. And again, if you look at yourself and you're honest with yourself, you want the right results. Most owners already feel that this is going to be happening to them. So don't use those excuses like we'll figure it out later on, we'll build everything in place when we're at those levels. Don't accept those lies. Be honest with yourself, name what's going on, and then slow down just enough to begin to start to address some of those things. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about what actually will break first when your growth outruns your readiness. We're going to talk about why it's almost never the things that owners expect. So you're going to want to come back to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits episodes, because once you see where growth is going to become fragile for you, you can start choosing the right paths that don't cost you or cost you less. And you will not lose your sanity. You will not lose your team. And you're not going to lose your business over growing too quickly. So if you're seeing any signs of the things that we've talked about today, don't go fix it right away. Are you where growth has been asking more of your systems than you've designed them for, than the way they've worked in the past? Please hang on to that. Recognize it. Don't fix anything yet. Come back next week. I'm Don Schin, and this is Franchise Pitfalls and Profits.